Hi, very good morning to everybody that's tuning to Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us, and there's a lot to talk about. If you join us for the first time, thank you very much for joining us. Do also you subscribe to the channel and turn on notification. Do that now. Pause the video, go back, turn on notification, and subscribe to the channel because there's a lot to unpack for you. There's a lot to discuss here on Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Make sure you do that very now, right about now, and let's just get into the conversation because there's a lot to unpack for you. My name is Fiifi-Manfred. I will say again, if you are chancing on the video on YouTube for the very first time, subscribe, turn on notification. Make sure you do choose all, and then share the content to everybody that's in there. I'm very excited to have you here. Say, oh, you're part of the Fiifi-Manfred family. Of course, let me also hear from you in the Fiifi-Manfred, in the comment section in there, and then let's have that very important conversation. And now, let's get into it. See, if you're a Chelsea fan, if you're a non-Chelsea fan, wherever you're coming from, whoever you are, you need to share the link of this video to see group woman, Chelsea group, non-Chelsea group, every group that you are in. Make sure say you share the group in there because they're very important information about the Babama. And it is something that is so important to the extent that you want to be here and make sure that you enjoy the competition. Now let's get straight into it. So, as we know, Premier League, has sanctioned Everton. They have sanctioned Nottingham Forest, and then most of the Premier League teams are bringing out their accounts or their finances for the financial year. Most especially between that ended at June 2023. So it's now that they've done those books and they are bringing it out. And I think that yesterday the Athletic did an excellent piece on Chelsea books now. And in there, you could tell, say, Chelsea were a big problem in terms of money and Iska. One of the things, and last night, let me try some explaining. I bet it was the post-match analysis of all the games that cost in Europe and Ronaldo. And I didn't really go into detail. This video is to go into detail and then look at other things as well. First of all, I did about question ultimately as and say on surface value or face value, Chelsea numbers now about a little bit worrying. It won't say, oh, somebody has quoted said Chelsea at one hotel and San Antonio stay afloat, and I say Chelsea, all of those things are there. And they're like real numbers, they're real definitions of honor. Now, one of the first things I'm seeing around, they say, why is it that the Premier League sustainability groups charge Everton and they didn't charge Nottingham Forest? Because Chelsea amortization for the year is the single most elaborate amortization that will be in a year. It's amortization now, okay, so players don't want to know. You amortize them over a number of years. Until the first year, okay, you're on 80 million ABI or sign contract 4 years, 20 million per year. But because Chelsea told players they bring at a very high price until in just 1 year, now amortization must show par. And there's a possibility that will not reduce because Chelsea players now must sign on a long-term contract, and then the monies are expensive. They bought them almost at the same time. But clearly, any Blue Co, any Baghdad Egbali have used some very smart financial engineering tactics to go around all of this. And that's the reason why Everton, you're charging them and Chelsea, they've not charged them. On the surface value, the numbers are very bleak and worrying. But if you go into the details after the net profits and any manner, you realize that Clearlake is a very smart entity. And I'll break everything down into detail for you because it is Adia Bakwa, it will determine Chelsea's future in the summer, in wherever. It's a big determinant of Chelsea's future. Whether they are going to continue to play in the English Premier League, there will not be dock points, whether they will play in Europe, whether they will qualify for Europe, the things that will happen to Chelsea, what will not happen to Chelsea, the COVID allowances that came to Chelsea. And this particular financial year is the first proper financial year for Blue Co, Totbole and Baghdad and Bali since they took over. It is their business and that's going to be on the numbers. What are our interpretations? And why is it that Premier League clubs be what English Premier League are unhappy? Say Chelsea, yes, I know up till now they've not been sanctioned, and we'll get into sad details because they're very important. Now you see, Of course, time I just thought ball in Monday Baghdad Bali Motor Club. One of the things they knew is that Roman Abramovich used to pump a lot of cash into the club. And the first big challenge they faced now, and it's a Chelsea almost had a very high score number. And most of the players also wanted to leave. No players in Sumini, Edward Mendy, Khalid Koulibaly, Antonio Rudiger, all of these guys wanted to leave. And there was a need to replace them. And in replacing them, you need to buy. Because Chelsea do not want to seem to be in a haste to sell players at a low cost internal. They try to make sure that they buy what they want before they do their selling. Because then, so to me, a ton we are, to me, a total players, then you don't look desperate, and it will be on boy or for. So essentially, Chelsea make sure that they buy what they want to buy before they go ahead and do the selling. Now, these are the numbers, and I'll run you through the numbers at every point in time. I'm run you through the numbers now. May explain actual so that you understand. First of all, one of the things that Chelsea are up to now, and in that statement, Omar Kabir said, Chelsea thought Boli Baghdad Bali believe that they are going to be within the means of the £105 million operating loss now yearly. They are going to be in it. There's no way that the election on FFP and I say Premier League sustainability rules now will be how do you call it? We'll find them once and empty. Now they'll be done. They say no, it won't happen. They have a huge plan. But what are the real numbers behind our plans? And Todd Boli saw, Baghdad Bali saw, Clearly saw, Blue Co saw. Why did they sell the hotel to Blue Co? Why did all of these things happen? What's the financial engineering that went on? And only ever be discussing quickly. Now, and what Chelsea said, they have been very, very consistent with it, almost a song or another. They said that they are going to be in there. And that tells me that there is huge, shrewd, smart financial engineering that's going on behind the scenes. And even the surface value numbers tells you so. Said there has been a plan. Now, first of all, numbers no a concerning. Say I catch up. And first one, the first concerning numbers. No, and it said before tax losses, no, the pre-tax losses. Chelsea in a 90.1 million losses before tax even came, before they paid their taxes. In that 2022-2023 year that ended in June 2023. Now, wage bill what Chelsea and so because all share in that year there were a lot of players on Chelsea's books that were paying players as see only on wage at the time. So Chelsea now a wage bill of about 404 million quid wage bill, which is very, very high. In fact, one of the highest at the time. But mind you that at the time, Chelsea had over 40 players on its wage bill. Time and now, Chelsea used 2 dressing rooms now. Thiago Silva must say, see, the players are not happy, there are too many because Chelsea had to sell. Chelsea were paying wages of a lot of players at the time. So that's why the wage bill was big and huge. And I'll tell you why it is shifting or changing as it stands now. Also, in terms of the wage bill, Chelsea is spending 745 million on players. It's true. When Chelsea sold in that financial year in 2022-2024, 23, they bought players 745 million on players. Now, what happens is that Chelsea made sure that they bought all of these players because they had a lot of players leaving. So last season, a lot of players left Chelsea, and they had to be on back. Of course, everybody will argue about how exorbitant the price of those players. Enzo Fernandez, Moise Caicedo, Modric, the price of the players were a little bit high. And some people even believe that some of the players that Chelsea were buying were not important. Some of the young players that were buying were not actually needed at the club. So there was no point in buying some players with Ribeno because at the end of the day, you don't need them for anything. Again, after Chelsea bought 745 million in terms of player purchases, then in the 2021 July 2022-2023 with 454.1 million after the financial year cut off. So after June 2023, that's summer now, Chelsea began another sales of buying players game. That's 445.1 million ahead of the next books. Now amortization and Amikacho at the beginning are very high because Chelsea bought a lot of players for very high fees. The first year amortizing fee, that is Sika Chelsea within the first year, I won books, it's also high, record high in the English Premier League this year with 205 million. But Everton is second, Nottingham Forest is third, but all Leicester City that were 152 million, Everton that were 249 million, Everton that were 150 million. Both of them have been charged or possibly going to be charged, but Chelsea have not been charged. Why? Because Chelsea is car. Now, this is what I want to explain to you. The reason why Everton has been charged, Leicester has been charged, Nottingham Forest has been charged, although all of them are in the top 4 of the yearly amortizer now. And it's a Chelsea were able to raise money in that financial year. And if you remember, Chelsea sold Edouard Mendy, Chelsea sold Kalidou Koulibaly, Chelsea sold a lot of players, and we even wanted to sell Ziyech, wanted to sell Lukaku, wanted to get all of these players off their books and get some good money. And Chelsea were able to raise in money. That is about 200 and Chelsea raising money 203 million from player sales and made a net profit of 62.9 million quid. Now, where did that net profit come from? Because in the first year amortization, Chelsea bought some players, and then in that operation loss now on over there, Chelsea made some good money in terms of buying players, selling players, and then getting some. So they made profits inside after say they sold players and other profits that came. Chelsea made good profit, 62.5 million, which is good. And that's the first reason why Chelsea haven't been sanctioned, Everton has been sanctioned, Leicester has been sanctioned, Nottingham Forest have been sanctioned, but Chelsea as it stands now still in sanction. First reason, and that's it over. And crucially, one of the first things that's also very, very important in adding to that is because Chelsea first the amortization there went for that year was 249. Now they sold players for 203. So here deduction now, it doesn't look like that's supposed to be profit. So where did Chelsea get that profit from? One of the things that really helped Chelsea in that year is Chelsea wanted to make profit on the books, and this is why I feel it was the smartest and brilliant financial decision, financial engineering from Clear Lake and Bluco to make sure that Chelsea were not sanctioned this year. Now, this is what they did. Now, Omobeto club, now, Chelsea as a club had a hotel, 2 hotels. Now, if you know the history of Clear Lake and Boli and Baghdad and Igbali, you know, said them they are huge equity investors into or business be say a building, they invest in it and they get money. So what they did was that they realized that hotel was aging, and your hotel be I say a year Chelsea profits in a year. So what they did was that on the books they will give 76 million to Chelsea, and this is what Roman Abramovich now all year, but he wasn't doing it in financial terms. He was just loaning it to Chelsea. But this time, clearly are doing the same thing, but in this area, it's like they're trading among them. So they call it relatable parties in themselves. And see, they bought that hotel from their main company, their parent company called Bluco. The Bluco was part of the people that bought Chelsea. So Bluco gave 76, what's the exact amount? Chelsea bought that hotel, £76.3 million from Chelsea Football Club. So £76.3 million plus 203 million in terms of player sales, minus 245. That is the profit Chelsea made, which was a 62.9 million at Chelsea in that financial year. Smart one. Just so to make sure say within that time, no, if we're using amortization numbers, then everything shows clearly say Chelsea season in charge, and you can charge Everton, you can charge Leicester. Financially, they were smart, they outweighted everybody. Now, crucially, Hotel was very, very important. But what you have to know is in that financial year, for the Premier League sustainability rules, it makes sense. They will allow Chelsea to go through. Chelsea will not be sanctioned. But that is not accepted by UEFA and FFP because that is seen as relatable parties. In business, some organizations do not accept 2 entities belonging to the same people doing business among themselves. Essentially, they see it as a way that people bypass rules, and it's not really accepted. So UEFA doesn't accept that, and that Chelsea needs to raise some more cash going forward, and we'll explain that also. Now, the next set of books are about 2023, 2024, we are 2022, 2023, and once in the year. And 2022, 2023, 2024, they end at Chelsea. They are sweating over the 2023, 2024 one because they know that they need to raise money, they need to do some good business, they need to put things in place just so things don't go bad for themselves. And they're forcing, they're pushing, they're doing everything within their right to make sure that sees the light of day. Now, where are Chelsea going to get things done? Now, starting like this. The next set of books, no, ever reflecting only Clear Lake and talk about tenure, and a drop of the year in one of COVID allowance because there's going to be some COVID allowance that's still going to come. Also, 55 million from the sale of Mason Mount is already going to be on that book. So already Chelsea has 55 million. The first year Chelsea made sales of about 203. This year, Chelsea is expected to reduce amortization. So maybe they are looking at making sales of 100 million from player sales. First of all, old Neymar and Chelsea from agents, this money and cost in the 2020, 2022-23 season, it's going to be clear. This time, it was ball money also. So nothing from Roma. Now this time, Chelsea 55 million. There's going to be some COVID allowance that's also supposed to come to Chelsea. That didn't come at the time that they were sanctioned. They're expecting it this year. Newcastle and Chelsea went in for a deal with Lewis Hall at the time. At the time, I remember the fan base were very much agitated. At the time, Chelsea had turned Lewis Hall to Newcastle. Why are you selling Lewis Hall to Newcastle? I think it was a smart plan to make sure they get some good money to go for it. And I'll tell you why other players may be sold as well. Now, Lewis Hall, and now, when Newcastle won that game against Tottenham Hotspur, that was officially triggered. 28 million, and it can go to up to 30 million in terms of money, and that's going to be on Chelsea's books in 23-24 season, because obviously that has been triggered already. Also, Chelsea wage bill also. Now, apart from that, also let me talk about a little bit about the players that are going to go. So Mason Mount has come, Lewis Hall has come. There's a tendency that Chelsea will let Hakim Ziyech go, will Romelu Lukaku go. Chelsea are most likely to get Ian Matheson go. Chelsea most likely Chalobah, Armando Broja go. These are about 7 players in there, and Malang Sarr, all of these players are going to go. I will not even be sure that someone like Alfie Gray Chris should be so, because they want pure profits in terms of the things that they want to do, and all of these players may go. And once they do, they get good money. Now there is an asterisk on Conor Gallagher, who was down to subject of conversation, how the summer conversation goes in the summer. So we'll wait to see how all of those things go. But this is in terms of players that may lead Chelsea to raise money. Raheem Sterling maybe to Saudi Arabia. All of these players are there, and there's a possibility that Chelsea may let them leave the club to raise some good money. So there's a very, very high likelihood that Chelsea will make good money by June 30th in the summer. Now, whilst all of these things have been said, also, when Chelsea signed the contract with all of the players that are there today, one of the things Chelsea Martin has said, their wage bill or their salaries are going to reduce if Chelsea doesn't qualify for the Champions League. So the £404 million wage bill that we're talking about at the beginning of the video, there's a very, very high tendency that's going to reduce, because Chelsea will not qualify for the Champions League this season. If they had qualified for the Champions League, that Chelsea will get additional revenue to take care of that. But they will not qualify for the Champions League, so it means that the wage bill is going to reduce. Now, this is exactly how they put it. They say Chelsea's wage bill will also decrease when the next set of figures come out due to the lack of European football under the new incentive-driven wage structure. I think that was smart. I think that's the game changer for Chelsea. The incentive-driven wage structure for Chelsea was brilliant to make sure say now Yanko go Europa, there will be a Siga now it will be a home that then we can go on and play some good football. Then yes, so financially we stay within the merits of the law over there. So there's a wage bill that's going to reduce in there over there wasn't achieved, will entirely compensate the lack of Champions League this season, though, which is another big hit to the books. The player sales between now and June 20th will provide further and the full picture. Sources still insist 100 million outgoing is not as much about raising funds. They help complete a 4-year window recruitment plan, as well as navigating an inflated market, and clearly Chelsea have contributed to. The numbers do look relatively bleak, but post the tax and allowable deductions, they become slightly more palatable. Of course, after tax, any deductions becomes more palatable. Hence, that's why Chelsea have not been charged up to date. Key is 2023-2024 affects the club, and regardless of breaches, how much budgets they have and or can raise to bring 3 to 4 key signings in the summer. Regardless, the domestic financial rules changes expected to be ratified in the summer. PSR will be in place for the 3-year monitoring cycle ending in 2023-2024, and even under new rules, points deduction are here to stay. Chelsea insists that they are not concerned, and the good news is a bit further down the line, is they are guaranteed World Cup income. This can be put into the 2024-2025 books, even though the tournament ends in mid-July, which is quality over there for them. So, Chelsea numbers. Now, one of the things that also there is the fact that Chelsea have everything to go on in the Club World Cup that's going to go on in, I think, June 20. That one, Chelsea has already qualified, if you remember. So that's fees will also come to Chelsea. And I think this is good stuff. So, if you've ever been wondering why all the hula baloo are on Chelsea, why all the clubs not happy about Chelsea, and why they are where they are today, Chelsea, this is exactly what's going on with their numbers at Chelsea Football Club. But it looks as if Chelsea on the right path to get back financially. The club maintains they are not concerned. The numbers are bleak before tax, but after tax and deductions, it looks a little bit more palatable according to Jacob's Bent. And I agree with him. Wait to see how what really pans out. Thank you very much. This is Fiifi-Manfred on YouTube. Take care, enjoy yourselves, and subscribe to the channel, turn on notification.